The next one, the last story here, Xi tells Trump that Taiwan is the most important issue. So Chinese President Xi Jinping told President Trump in a phone call on Wednesday that Taiwan is the most important issue in U.S.-China relations, according to Beijing's readout of the conversation. The Chinese readout said, quote, President Xi emphasized that the Taiwan question is the most important issue in China-U.S. relations. Taiwan is China's territory. China must safeguard its own sovereignty and territorial integrity, and will never allow Taiwan to be separated. The U.S. must handle the issue of Taiwan arms sales with prudence, end quote. And so this conversation between Trump and Xi came a little more than a month after China launched major military drills around Taiwan, simulating a blockade in response to the Trump administration approving a series of arms sales to Taipei worth more than $11 billion, a higher dollar amount than all of the arms sales approved under the Biden administration. So this is a huge number of weapon sales, just a big escalation of U.S. military support for Taiwan. And China launched major drills directly in response to that. They made it very clear that that's why they were doing those big drills. And according to the Chinese readout, Trump said that he understands how China feels about the Taiwan question. But it's interesting here because you look at the Chinese readout, it said some general things about U.S.-China relations, trying to keep things on a good track and everything. But the only concrete issue that was mentioned was Taiwan, and it was mentioned very strongly. And Trump puts out this statement on Truth Social where he mentions all these other issues, but the only thing that she mentioned, or that the China mentioned in the readout, was Taiwan. So this is what Trump said about the call. He said, quote, it was a long and thorough call where many important subjects were discussed, including trade, military, the April trip that I will be making to China, Taiwan, the war between Russia, Ukraine, the current situation with Iran, the purchase of oil and gas by China from the United States, the consideration by China of the purchase of additional agricultural products, including lifting the soybean count to 20 million tons, airplane engine deliveries, and numerous other subjects, all very positive, end quote. And he also said that U.S.-China relations and his relationship with Xi are extremely good, and that positive developments will occur between the two countries for the remainder of his term. But Xi's statement shows that there's real tension here over Taiwan. And it's interesting. I think it was in November when they met in South Korea. And Trump said after that meeting that they didn't talk about Taiwan, that it didn't come up. And there were some signs that the U.S. might have been backing down a little bit with Taiwan. But then in December, we see this huge arms sale, multiple arms sales. I think it's 8 total arms sales. And then we see China do these big drills. And then now they have this talk, and she stresses Taiwan as, essentially based on their readout, I would say. I mean, he actually literally said, I was going to say it was the most important, he made it clear it was the most important issue. That is literally what they said, that he told him, that it's the most important thing. And another line that we've heard from Chinese officials in recent years is they say the Taiwan issue is the first red line that must not be crossed in U.S.-China relations. So they make it clear how important this is to them. And all this arming Taiwan, increasing diplomatic support for Taiwan is all in the name of deterrence. But it's very clear that these steps are making a war more likely.